They built monumental cities emerging from the forest trees and virgin hills of Central America. They cultivated a bellicose culture that exalted war as a sacred activity and worshipped the dark and savage gods who demanded bloodshed through human sacrifices. Full of mysteries and intriguing stories, the Maya civilization was the largest and most powerful of the pre-Columbian civilizations, appearing around 2600 BC and reaching its zenith between the 8th and 9th centuries. They occupy the areas that today encompass southeastern Mexico and northern Central America. This area included the entire Yucatan Peninsula, Guatemala, Belize, as well as the western parts of Honduras and El Salvador. Thanks to their mastery of agriculture, the early inhabitants of Mesoamerica settled in sedentary agricultural societies, their main source of food being the cultivation of corn, beans and squash. Among other cultures that adopted the agricultural lifestyle, such as the Olmecs, Mixtecs and Aztecs, the Maya stood out for the rapid territorial expansion. The history of the Maya civilization is divided into three main periods: the Preclassic, Classic and Post-Classic periods. During the Preclassic period between 2000 BC and 250 AD, small villages began to grow and form cities. The political system was also constituted in a theopolitical form. That is the belief that the king and other members of the kingship had divine descent and total authority over their subjects. The authority vested in the ruler was enormous, to the extent that the king exercised ultimate control over the administrative, economic, judicial and military functions of politics, with his authority reinforced by public displays, rituals and religion. The population to the ruler allowed the mobilization of hundreds of people in the execution of huge projects and the construction of solid, detailed buildings. As the population increased, different sectors of society became more specialized and political organization became more complex. Hundreds of cities became connected in a web of political hierarchies. The wealthy segment of society multiplied with the development of a middle class consisting of artisans, priests, merchants and soldiers. The Mayan calendar system originated in the preclassical period and was developed to its maximum sophistication, registering the lunar and solar cycles, eclipses and movements of the planets with great precision. The Mayan calendar was intrinsically associated with rituals and astronomy. The Mayan made meticulous observations on celestial bodies, registering the movements of the sun, moon and stars. Although astronomy was primarily used by the priesthood to understand time cycles and project them into the future to produce prophecies, it also had some practical purposes, such as helping with planting and harvesting crops. During the classical period between 250 and 900 AD, the Mayan reached the peak of large-scale construction and urbanism, achieving important intellectual and artistic development. The political organization of the classical period has been compared to that of classical Greece, with several city-states and a complex network of alliances and enmities. The largest cities had populations of 50,000 to 000 people. Some of these strong cities fought violent wars with each other, as was the legendary rivalry between Tikal and Kalakmal. Both cities developed deep systems of alliances and vassals. Smaller cities that join one of these networks gain prestige by their association with the capital city. This political context can be compared to feudal Japan of the Sengoku-Jidai era, founded in the 3rd century in what is now Guatemala. The Gao was the largest city in the Maya Empire and the capital of a conquering state that became one of the most powerful kingdoms of the ancient Maya. The sovereignty of Tikal was challenged by the also great city of Teotihuacan. The latter, around 378 AD, decisively subdued the rulers of Tikal, founding a new dynasty. There were also other sites with remarkable architecture and sculptures, such as the city of Chichen Itza in the Mexican state of Yucatan.
Chichen Itza was one of the largest Mayan cities and may have had the most diverse population in the Maya world, a factor that contributed to its different architectural styles. During the classical period, the Mayan made progress in the study of mathematics and made official a writing system based on hieroglyphics. The Mayan writing system is one of the greatest achievements of the pre-Columbian inhabitants of the Americas, considered the most sophisticated and developed out of a dozen writing systems developed in Mesoamerica. Warfare was prevalent in the Mayan world. Military campaigns were organized for several reasons, including control of trade routes and tributes, raids to capture prisoners, and even the complete destruction of an enemy state. Mayan kings led as war captains, but if defeated, they could be captured, tortured, and sacrificed. Mayan states did not maintain standing armies, but any adult male was fit for military service. Warriors were highly disciplined and participated in regular training exercises, which included combat, strategy, and war dances. Some native chronicles suggest that women occasionally battled as well. The Mayan religion was based on the belief in a supernatural realm, inhabited by several powerful deities. Most were cruel and violent in nature, constantly needing to be pampered with ceremonial and ritual offerings. For the Mayan, the gods were the personified forces of nature, and could command rain, wind, fire, and other natural elements. The belief in supernatural forces influenced Mayan life, including the simplest daily activities such as food preparation, trade, politics, and elitist activities. Mayan deities governed all visible and invisible aspects of the world. Dead ancestors were also worshipped, who were thought to be able to intercede for their living descendants in relations with the supernatural realm. Families buried their dead in the soil, with offerings appropriate to the family's social status. As Mayan society developed and the elite became more powerful, the royalty developed their domestic shrines in their Great Pyramids, which came to shelter the tombs of their ancestors. The most important Mayan rituals culminated in human sacrifice. Blood was considered a potent source of nourishment for the deities, and the sacrifice of a living creature was an important blood offering. Generally, only high-status prisoners of war were sacrificed. Captives of lower status were used for labor. Sacrificing an enemy king was the most valued act. The sacrifice involved beheading the captive ruler. But this sometimes only happened after the victim had been tortured, beaten, scalped, burned, or disemboweled in various ways. Heart extraction, while the victim was still alive, was also a common practice, influenced by the rites of the Aztecs in the Valley of Mexico. The Mayans expressed their religious beliefs and other aspects of society in art, preferring the color green or blue-green. They placed great value on jade stones, carving sculptures and funerary masks that could weigh up to 4 kilograms. The Mayans had a long tradition of painting murals. The walls were covered with plaster, and polychrome designs were painted on the smooth finish. Most of these murals had not survived, but painted tombs have been excavated in Tikal and other locations. Among the best preserved murals was a series of life-size paintings at the archaeological site of Bonampak. The post-classic period lasted from 950 to 1539 AD, characterized by the abandonment of the major cities of the classical period. No single theory is universally accepted to explain this collapse of Mayan society, but there were probably several causes, including wars, overpopulation, and severe environmental degradation, which led to the drying up of the main water sources that supplied the cities. Mass migrations considerably altered the landscape of the Maya world. Entire cities became empty and were rarely repopulated. Most of the population headed for higher ground, building new, smaller cities on hilltops where the geography of the terrain allowed for greater protection against enemy attacks. The Mayan world was further impacted by the arrival of the Spanish in 1511, when a Spanish caravel sank in the Caribbean, and about a dozen survivors landed on the coast of Yucatan. They were captured by a Mayan lord, and most were sacrificed. From 1517 to 1519, 3 Spanish expeditions explored the Yucatan coast and fought several battles with the Mayan inhabitants. Even the brave Mayan warriors could not rival the military superiority of the Spanish, who had firearms, cannons, armor, and steel swords. The main Mayan cities were captured and plundered by the Spanish, whose great intent was to find gold to enrich their coffers. Noypeten was the last independent Mayan city to fall into the hands of the Spanish in 1697. Although the Spanish conquest weakened the Mayan culture, it was not extinguished. Mayan beliefs and language have stood the test of time. The 260-day ritual calendar is still in use in modern Mayan communities in the highlands of Guatemala and Chiapas, where millions of Mayan speakers inhabit the territory where their ancestors developed their civilization.